Okay, g'day guys, Andrew Dwight here from PlusSpec. Today I'm going to talk to you about a layout template that we've created to make it easier for you. Now I understand that some layout users are seasoned professionals and some of this will be obvious and you might pick up a few tips and tricks on the way. But what we've done is we've created a template for layout so that you can do your 2D construction documentation more swiftly, easier, with a lot of things just sitting there ready for you to go. And if you're new to layout or you're new to PlusSpec or Sketchup, this would be a big help. Okay, so we've got a covering page here and you can read through the information here and I'll just quickly run through it. It gives you some tips and tricks on what we've done and why we've done it, and I'll go through a couple of things now and then I'll get into a model that's been drawn by a student user which I know very little about, and we'll stick it into the template and see how it works out. Okay, so you'll notice that it says delete this. This is just for you to start to correspond the way that PlusSpec sets up models. So site plan, if I brought in a model now and I right click that model, I could then go and choose site plan and the view should align with what's set up in the template. Okay, it depends on how you've drawn your model obviously. Okay, so you can see my little mouse up there that is sort of moving around, and if you watch the buttons you'll notice that things will change. So my little left button and my right button will allow you to figure out what I'm doing, and if I'm doing a keyboard shortcut you'll notice that the keyboard shortcut will come up there for about 5 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to go back and my computer will do autosaves as we go. I'll try and cut them out as I go. And you'll notice that we now have slab plan, and if I go to my next page we've got floor plan, and inside of these templates they actually change to suit what you would usually use in that type of scene. So you notice that I went there now to my first floor plan and I have names that I can actually grab and put into my drawing just to make it a little bit quicker and easier. You can also push control and leave it there if you wanted to, and you can start to label drawings, and I'll show you how this works in real time later. Control Z is undo. And let's go through here. You'll notice that I have Windows schedule set up here, which I can simply click, drag in. Just makes things a lot easier for you. It's easy to do things when they're sitting there reminding you all the time. And I'm a bit of a systems person. I forget things from time to time because I don't do them every day. So we set it up for people like me who may only draw, documentation, once, twice a month. I'm not an architect, I'm a builder, so hopefully my view makes it a little bit easier for everyone to understand. I'm probably going to make mistakes as I go because I'm not a brilliant layout user. Okay, so the template you'll get, there's special offers that come through and you get it free with PlusSpec, and certain places you'll see more about that in the coming future. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to SketchUp and I'm going to look at this drawing that young Miles has done for us. Okay, and I have everything selected all in the scenes. These scenes are automatically set up via PlusSpec, and so what Miles has done when he created this drawing is he's clicked the scene tool button and it's created these scenes for him. Now these scenes correspond with the layout file as I said before. So what I like to do when I've got somebody else's model is just go through and have a bit of a look. Now PlusSpec, now you'll notice if you're using PlusSpec, is doing your elevations in color. However, it appears to me that Miles, when he did this one, we now make our floor plans in color as well. However, it appears as though Miles has done it in an older version, and you know what, it's not a big deal. If you want to change that, you can simply look for this toolbar called Styles. You can get that by right clicking up here and you can select it, or you can also go view toolbars up here. Okay, there's a couple of things that aren't correct in the model, and you know what, it's something I wouldn't expect to change. I've got my wall linings on, which means if I dimension this wall, it's actually going to give me the thickness of the wall. I dimensioned it diagonally. I should have dimensioned it from here. It's giving me the thickness of the wall plus the lining. However, these are 70mm frames or 3-inch frames, and when I went into layout and tried to use and dimension my drawings, I'm going to get a snap point, which I don't want, which is the distance from here to here. I really want to dimension my wall to get an accurate drawing, and that's quite easy to fix. Essentially, in this floor plan here, I'm going to turn off my external lining. There's a couple of ways you can do that. I could select it and I could right click and find out what layer this is on. I know what layer it's on, so if I go into here and I go to internal linings, internal finishes, there we go, it's turned my layer off for me. Okay, notice I use spacebar and escape a fair bit, and let's have a look at what actually happened there. Right, as I look at the drawing, it looks like I still have a line there, but if I go to my color view, you'll notice it's actually the carpet that's still in there. So what I'd do in this particular situation here is I'd probably select all of my carpet and I'd group it together and I'd put on another layer. Okay, because it's unusual to want to show floor finishes in a construction document. You can do it. Okay, so I've done that. I'm going to right click and I'm going to make a group. Okay, now I have that group. If I right click again and go to entity info, I can create another layer and stick it on that layer. So they're floor finishes. So I'm going to go call it here. And if I want to give it a number so it sits in line, I like to give things numbers because it's easy to find things. And I would say, you know what, my floor finishes would go in after my stairs, after there. I'm going to put in my floor finishes, you know, after my fix out. I'm going to call it 24H. Okay, so I'm going to go plus 24H. Therefore it's sitting in the order that it would be built there, and I'm going to call it floor finishes. Okay, now I'm going to go up to here and I'm going to go down and whoops, it's my IFC floor finishes 24. I can also type in 2 and it will bring me down to here and floor finishes, and I'm actually going to turn that layer off. If I put that on the correct layer, 24 floor finishes, 24H floor finishes. Obviously I turned the wrong one off, and now you'll see that I actually have a floor plan. You can see that I've missed a couple in there. Not a big deal, they're only in linen cupboards, and I don't want to see my floor sheeting type in my ground floor plan. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to look at it top down, and this tool here, views, which you can also put in there, it just allows you to navigate your model a little bit easier. I'm going to zoom out a touch so I get this in nicely, and I'm going to go to change my style to black and white, and I'm going to go here and go right click, update. Okay, now when I click it, you'll notice that I have cleaner lines around my walls. Now I'd say this model's also been drawn in an older version of PlusSpec. You can quite easily add in a section cut plane. I won't get into that right now. Let's just see if we can get through Miles's model and find a couple of things that we can fix up before we stick it into layout. Okay, there's a couple other things that I notice here. Miles hasn't used the default toilets out of PlusSpec, which you can find in your components menu up here. And if I go to my plumbing items, I can scroll through until I find my default toilets. These have been set up to work better in 2D. I can drop my toilet to a wall if I want to, or I can simply place it and it will stick to a wall. However, you might want to use a custom toilet like Miles, so I won't use my toilet. I'll leave it out of here. And I don't want to have to go through and update every different component. And I would assume that these would be components. And the way that I'll know is if I select it, triple click it, and you can see over here when I do that, that the model is doing the same thing in components, which is kind of handy for me. It allows me to do all my components in the model in one go. Okay, soften smooth edges. Okay, we have smooth normals and we have smooth coplanar. Now if I go through this, and instantly as I move it, you'll notice that the line, the outline of the line is becoming clearer. Okay, and it appears that that seems to be the best for that particular toilet seat. I could go a little bit more and I now have my line. Okay, the same thing is going to happen with the top of the toilet, just so I can see it in my 2D view. right click, soften smooth edges, and I want it so I can get the outline in my 2D drawing. Okay. Now when I click outside of, my toilet looks a lot cleaner and is going to look a lot better in layout. And the other toilet was done the same. I probably could go a little bit more with that. You can have a mess around with it. Same thing with these vanities over here. The best thing to do is to try and use the vanities that we provide. However, I understand that sometimes you're going to want different ones. Soften smooth edges, and go into here, coplanar. Okay, how much detail do I want in that drawing? I think I want just enough to show what they actually are in my 2D view, so I'm going to leave it at that. You know, you can spend a bit more time on that. You can save these components so you don't come across it next time. Also, this line going through here, you know what, it's not needed in my 2D drawings, so I'm just simply clicking until I get to that line. I'm going to push hide, so you can right click and hide, or I've got a keyboard shortcut set up for hide, which is H, and I'm just starting to tidy my drawing up. You can see there's another one there. Hide. You know, and you can spend more time on that. We're doing a tutorial, guys, so I'm going to try and make it as quick as I can. There's other things that I've noticed that could be improved upon. I usually open my doors when I do it, so I'm going to just scroll around here into my 3D view, and one of the benefits of PlusSpec in Sketchup is you're in true 3D, and just open these doors up. It just makes my lines a little bit nicer as I go to put it into layout. And I'm going to show you an example of Miles's drawing in a moment. And now go back to my floor plan, and I can see that my line work is a bit better. There's also a line between here and here, but that's actually signifying that we've gone from tiles to carpet. If I went to my color view, you'll notice that that's the case. Okay, so there's several different ways you can present your drawings, and there's a lot of flexibility inside of SketchUp when you know how. So I hope those tips help out. I can now go and have a quick look through and see if there's anything else missing. Okay, so I've gone to my elevations, and it looks as though I don't have a floor in here. It's not so much that I don't have a floor in there, it's just when we automatically created scenes, a lot of the time we don't want to see joists in some particular scenes, and elevations being one of those. Now in this particular scene, I actually do want it so I can come through into my layout drawing. So there's two ways you can do it, and as before I said, if you click on something, let's go to all here, and I select my joist, if I right click and go entity info, it tells me what layer they're on. So I've got floor joist group. Okay, so if I go down to floor joist group in my layers, and you can pin this if you want to, if you don't want to close it all the time and open it, and if I went back to my elevation, I can turn my floor joist on. Okay, so floor joist group, obviously under F, floor joist group is turned on there. However, the group underneath that, which would be in the order you would actually build it if you're ever looking for this, brickwork, cladding, framing, joists, there we go, right there. And you'll notice that now I have my floor joist turned on. I would also want to update that as well. Right click, update. Now, every time I go to scene number 1, I'll be ready to go. Okay, let's just unpin this here. Go back to this, make sure it works. Now you'll notice if I go to elevation 2, 3 and 4, if you don't like to see plans in color, it's simple, just go up to here to your styles, select black and white, and away you go. I personally like color in my elevations, so I'll leave it to you, it's your personal preference. Now I've made these changes, what I want to do is go file, and I want to save it as, because I don't want to ruin Miles' work, and it allows me to show him. I'm going to call it, I don't know, Andrew Miles, because I'm not going to build this. And when I get into construction documentation, I'm not going to spend a whole heap of time. I'm going to show you what Miles actually did, and he's done quite a good job, especially for a student. So let's have a look at that while that's saving. Okay. So I'll just zoom out here, and we'll go through the different things that Miles has done here. On his first page he's got his general notes and so on, and this has all been done in layout. He's done a bit of a render. You can spend time rendering, or you can do a lot of this kind of quality inside of SketchUp by just turning edges off and so on. He's got his floor plans, site plans and so on, roof plans, elevations. There's a couple of things here that I'd probably do a little bit easier, and I might quickly jump into that before I go across to layout, because these are our height planes that we're going to dimension, and I'm going to do them in SketchUp. He's got his section plans in there. There's a fair bit of detail. Good work for a young fella. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to go back and just quickly add in my height planes for my my elevations. Alright, so I'm going to go to roof off, because this is giving me the ceiling height. Now ideally you should have added a ceiling in there, because for a bill of quantities you're going to need to do a ceiling anyway. However, let's just work with what we've got here. I've gone to my grid tool, and I'm going to add a grid. It doesn't matter what size, because all I'm really after is the dotted lines, so you can put in whatever you want to. Go submit, and I'm going to try and find a finished wall height here, and I'm going to just go outside of my model basically. So here, now I have a grid line there that's sitting outside of. Now I can dimension from this grid line in layout, so if I go to here and select it, I can move it so that it's going to come out all sides of my model. I'm going to try and get an axis, and we're going to do the same on the other side, just so it's roughly center. Okay, it's a good little tip and trick, this one. And if I go to my structure, I can now get to my finished floor height, which is actually going to be from here, and continue to do this over and over. And underside of my joist. There's a few things here that I've noticed. I'm not sure whether it's a construction method according to the location. However, I would usually have my barriers further apart, or the beam supporting, and that's very easy to fix. I might just quickly do that as well after I've completed this. Okay, underside of floor, which is there. You know what else I could do, which is probably even going to be easier? I'm going to go to all, so I don't have to create another one, and all of my grid lines line up. I'm going to go to my section. Has Miles got his sections? Yes. My grid lines are turned off in my section in my layers. There's a couple of ways I can go about that. I can go back to grid lines, find my grid, be under G, I would assume, grids, that's turned on. I'm going to go to all. My grid is there. Select the grid, like I said before, right click, entity info. It's on layer grids. Strange it's not on in the section. Grids is turned on. Look, I'm not sure where that is, so let's just go back to all, go to transparent view, and I'm going to select the grid. I'm going to move it down the distance of my joist from top of floor to underside, so I push control. If you watch my keyboard there, you'll see what's happening, and I'm going to do the same thing for my finished floor level. Therefore I don't have to worry about slab step downs or anything, if there is one in this model. And finished floor level should be underside of there. Okay, and you can continue to do that. I'm just going to do these ones now. I'm also going to move them over a touch so that I can see them. Shift, bottom up, move them over, and this is handy, so it's worth me spending a little bit of time showing you what I'm doing here. Okay, so all I did is I moved it over to the right there so that I can see it in my different elevations, and I might also move them forwards a touch. I always like to try and find the easiest way to do things. I'm looking for an axis. If I use my left or right button, okay, that's green, right arrow, left, and I'm going to say move it 500 millimeters. Enter. Okay. Now I have some dotted lines. If I look at my elevations, you can notice that I can use these to dimension from. Okay, file save, and then file center layout. Now what you'll notice is that as soon as I send that to layout, layout's going to open down the bottom down here, and I need to choose a template. Now the templates that I spoke about earlier on are now in here. So I've got a single level house and a double story house. I'm going to open that template, and my model appears. The model isn't to scale. I haven't told it to scale just yet. And I'm also in the ground floor. So several things I want to do is I want to go and choose my ground floor plan. I saved my template so it automatically opens up in ground floor. Okay, so scenes, ground floor, and I'm also going to change my size here. Notice that I have my grid lines through there. I don't actually want those, so I can turn them off. I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to go to my scale. 1 is to 100. Okay, move this up here, and I'm going to move it up here. I can start dimensioning from here now, and there's some really cool things that we've done with dimensioning in this template, and some people like dimensions done in different ways. Okay, so this particular dimension style here will actually run a leader all the way from the geometry with a slight gap to show you where that goes. And this particular one here, you can notice there's no leader, however just a line and across. You can have dots, and you can, if you don't use any of these, just go through and delete them. Simply delete and then save your template. Okay, I'm going to undo that and leave it there. Okay, and these are distracting to me here, so I'm going to go back to my SketchUp model, Alt Tab, and I'm going to go back to my floor plans, ground floor plan, and I'm going to just hide these in this scene only. Okay, so I can just simply go right click and hide. Okay, obviously sitting above my section plane there. If that's the case, I can just turn it off. So I'm actually going to Control Z that. Right, and I'm going to turn my grids off. Layers, grids. There we go. I'm going to right click and I'm going to update my scene. Okay. File, save. Alt Tab will take me back to layout. I'm going to wait till it's finished saving first. Okay, Alt Tab, take me to layout, update model reference. Okay, and now I have my grid lines gone. Okay, so I can, as I said before, I can start to dimension, and as I said, if I want to use these dimension lines up here, I can simply use my eyedropper and I can select the style of dimension that I want to use. Okay, and now if I go to dimension, it's copied that dimension style. So I'm not going to get too caught up in dimensioning here. However, I might just quickly do my external walls, I don't know, from here to here. Okay, and I might want to do my windows here to here, say. double clicked there, but I clicked the wrong side of the line. As I said, I'm no pro when it comes to this. I can change the way these lines change, and I'm going to do that in another video for you. Double clicking allows me to choose a point, and obviously you should be more accurate than this. I'm not building this. And I can quickly dimension. Now, I might not want my leaders to run through like this. I might say, you know what, I actually want to use this dimension style here. And I don't want to have to manually go inside of my leader and move my leader lines, which you can do, and sometimes you do need to do. I actually want to go and say, well, you know what, I actually want to use this particular style here, or any particular style. I go to here, select this one here, and you can see what's happening to my leader lines. They're automatically coming shorter. Okay, it's a big help, makes it a lot easier to do what we need to do. Dimensioning is so much better in layout 17, and with this template you can really start to improve the way and the speed that you draw. There's other things inside of this template as well. I have my room names, so I might say, okay, well, at the moment I'm on the ground floor, so I'm going to have a kitchen. You can change the styles of these in your template. So, okay, I've got my kitchen here, that should be on the top layer. It's going there, it's obviously not sitting at the top. Arrange, bring to front. Drop it to there. And you can add all of those in. I'm going to change all of this before you get the template. You'll get that as well. Arrange. I'm going to bring them to the front. And now I can go and say, okay, I'm going to add my entry. However you want to do it. As I said, you can go and change the styles, or even the way these things read. The text style. If you want to change the name of it, you want to shorten your bathroom down to bath, just delete it. Grab it. Bathroom there. And before you know it, we're getting a set of construction documents out of a plan. Notice that the line work and the line weights at the moment aren't very nice. And that's good, because all I'm trying to do is rough out. However, I do want nice clean line weights before I go. So I'm going to select my model. I'm going to change it from from raster to hybrid. And this does slow down the way you draw. So usually I just do this towards the end. I might also go to vector mode as well, depending on the type of model that I'm drawing. But it's cleaned up my line work a lot. Okay, and when we go and stick this into layout, I'll have a nice clean presentation. Okay, so there's one other thing that I need to do. Is I need to do my elevations. I'm going to copy this, Control C. Depending on the speed of your computer, I'm using a laptop here, guys. This is not a high-spec computer. And I'm going to go Control V, which will bring the floor plan in the exact same way as I've copied it. But I'm going to go to my scenes. I'm going to right-click it once it's brought in, and I'm going to then change it to scene. Change the scene, sorry. Right-click scenes, and I'm going to go elevation 1. Okay, it's stayed at 1 to 100. And depending on the size of the house, obviously, whether you're going to fit them all into one drawing. There's a couple of things you probably wouldn't normally see here, and that would be the footings. I'm going to show you how we overcome that as well. I'm going to right click, scenes, and I'm going to go to elevation 3. Notice in my elevations I have that dotted grid line, which is allowing me to dimension from here. I can go back and figure out what type of dimension I want to use. I can use, say, go to here, and I'm going to use the one with a leader line. And I can go through and I can start to dimension according to how I want it to work. So dimensions D. Let's have a look. And you know what, I probably should have actually increased these grid lines out, because I can only just see them. So really all I need to do is go back inside of my model and and work my floor areas from here. You can see that I don't really want this leader line going through there, and I'm going to give you a rundown again on this. Where are we going to go? Here. And I don't want that leader line coming through there. So what I'm going to do is I just use my eyedropper. I'm going to go back and choose the dimension style that I like or want. In this case it'll be this one here. And right over here. You'll notice that I'm starting to get a drawing that works if I want to do the same with this one here. Okay, so I'm doing my elevations and so on. It's probably, look, we're into about half an hour now, guys. If you want to stick around, I'm going to quickly do some shadow drawings according to Miles's drawing. If not, you know, jump on over to the PlusSpec page and give us some feedback, or write some feedback in the bottom of this video. Okay, so let's have a look at the next one. I haven't created shadow diagrams, and neither has Miles. Okay, electrical floor plan, we don't want that one. June solstice, okay. I need to copy and paste my drawing back in. Now it remembered what I copied and pasted last, so I'm going to get a floor plan. And while that's copying and pasting in there, I might go back to my Sketchup model and quickly go and create my shadow drawings. Okay, it's in there now. Here. Okay, I'm going to go to all. It's going to give me all of my model. I'm going to go to my very first toolbar inside of PlusSpec. This is in PlusSpec 16 onwards, and I don't know which way north is in this particular building, so I'm just going to leave it as default. However, if I did know the geolocation, I can go to here, go to Google Earth, and geolocate it according to the north point, solar north. I'm just going to go create shadows. Okay, you'll notice that I created these scenes at the top here, which are automatically giving me my shadow diagrams. This is June according to the location of the default setting of my model. June. Sometimes you'll notice that your shadows are going to step outside of the model. So if that's the case, and usually if you have a block that we're sitting on, now PlusSpec will automatically go and center my model according to the total extremities of the model. You can see that one there stepping outside of into a neighboring property, I'm assuming. And here I have my shadows according to the solstice. It's very, very quick, and it's very, very accurate when you geolocate your model. And we've done that in one of the other videos. You can look at creating shadows in PlusSpec on Google. So now I have this, I'm going to go back and I'm going to save the model. So Control S. I'm now going to go to layout. So once it's finished saving, I'm going to go to layout, and then I'm going to quickly go and put in my shadow diagrams according to what I'm going to do. Okay, so it's most important that you do wait for that to save. As I said, I'm not working on a high-spec computer here, so let's assume that's done. Right-click, scenes, and we'll soon know if it's done because I'll have my solstice sitting down the bottom. It isn't just yet. I'm going to update model reference. And Alt-Tab will take me back to that model. Okay, scenes, still messing around a little bit. I probably should have done it on a higher spec computer. Okay, I now have my solstice, 9 AM, and you might want to change these to suit your scale. So probably no need to have a 1 to 100 scale, just do a shadow diagram. So I might say 1 to 200. Okay, and you can see I have a whole block. Let's just drop it down to the size of the block that I have in there. And it was also working harder because it's in hybrid mode. You'll notice that things are slowing down a touch. Let's get out of hybrid mode, go back to raster, and it will just speed things up a touch for us. Okay. Okay. Move this up here. So I now have my June solstice, which, if I want to not forget which is which, select the model. And I'm going to skip a couple of steps here. on to miss a few, 99, 100, I think you're getting the idea. Scenes, and I'm going to go to, let's say, go to 3 p.m. Notice that I actually copied that model there, and I didn't do it properly, because what I need to do is I need to first push Control, move my model, and let go of my mouse first. And now you see I copied the model. Right, now I can go and change my scenes back to 9 a.m. It's kind of good to make mistakes in front of everyone. You can see that my shadow diagrams are working according to how that was set up. So guys, there's a lot of information in that, so by all means go back and watch the video several times over. If you have any questions, ask me at the bottom. Alright, thanks for taking your time to listen. Cheers.